peace. I'm back with the seventh of the seven major examples that are written clearly, repeated over and over in the Quran. And that is the example of Moses and his enemy, Pharaoh. The story of Moses is widely known on the earth by at least those who hold the Torah, the Bible, and Quran, and they say much lies about Moses and some truth as well. So, who was Moses? Another messenger of God. Simple answer. But let's look at what Moses is all about. I'll just give a little overview of where this story came and is headed. So, after Shoaib, Moses came, and in the last session, I talked about Shoaib, who came to the cities known today as Nazareth and Tiberias and Sea of Galilee, known in the Quran in Arabic as Mu'tafikat, and Madian and fluid of Madian, Mal Madian, which is Sea of Galilee in today's Israel. So Moses came after that, and obviously most people do know that, some don't, that the sons of Israel after Joseph, one of the 12 actual sons of Jacob, Israel, they came into power in Egypt, and over the years or centuries or however long it took till the time Moses came, they had risen and fallen and were enslaved to the Pharaoh and commenting on pharaohs, but he is referred as the one pharaoh in the Quran who was the enemy of Moses and whose house Moses grew up, which is another oddity, and people don't understand the whole aspect of how God works. So Moses, when you look at the Quran, whichever place you turn, there is an example of Moses. I mean, everywhere in the Quran you turn, there's Moses, and Pharaoh. He is by far the most detailed example of any messenger of God in the Quran, by a large margin, by a significantly large margin. He is the most talked about, the most detailed example of what happened with him and Pharaoh, and what happened with the sons of Israel as they left Egypt to go eventually to the Holy Land and Jerusalem, the city blessed, and the house of God. I'll give you an overview of what happened. I'll bring up a map here. So, this is Google Maps, and here's Israel. There's Cairo, Egypt. Um, got the Dead Sea here. You've got Nazareth, Tiberias up here, and you have the Gulf, Suez Gulf, and the Red Sea, and all this stuff down here in the Nile River. So Moses was born in around Egypt to a believing mother, and at that time, Pharaoh was and his chiefs were killing all the sons of Israel and letting their women live because for some reason they had an inkling something was going to happen to them. And obviously, all these things are prophesied as what is happening today, as well as what has happened in the past and what will happen in the future. Many people know what is actually happening, and they try and avoid that occurring, but usually it ends up with it occurring because God has written it. So it's not a surprise. So he was born, and his mother was inspired by God to put him in the ark and put him in the river when she feared that he would be killed or be threatened, or she felt threatened. And eventually he was picked up by Pharaoh, and they took him in as an adopted son, him and his woman, and he grew in his house until he was old enough. And then eventually he had an issue in Cairo where he killed someone wrongly, a soul, unjustly, I would say. And at that time, when that happened, the pharaohs and all the chiefs were planning to kill him at that time, and he was told to get out. So he ran from Egypt. I don't know where he was. I mean, somewhere in here, I guess. Yeah. I mean, obviously, this is Egypt, so near the where the pyramids are today. He went into the so-called Sinai Peninsula today, and through this tract up to Madian, or Sea of Galilee, Tiberias and Nazareth. So he ended up here after running away from Pharaoh because they were going to kill him because he killed one of their men. And he ended up here and met up with a couple of women and helped them out a bit, and eventually met up with their father, who married off one of his daughters to him. And he covenanted with the father that he would complete 8 contentions at least with him, and if 10 from within him. So he completed 8 or 10 contentions, which are either 8 years or 8 tasks that he was put in to do, or up to 10. And he spent whatever amount of time up here till one day he left with his wife and family, I'm guessing, and he traveled down from here after finishing his contentions, and he came to Jerusalem on his way to God knows where. Yeah, I mean, at that time, he was not known to be a messenger. Having said that, Moses' mother, when he was born, was already informed about the fact that he would be a messenger of God. And even when she threw him in the river, God would return him to her. So he would grow in her household under the care of Pharaoh, but taken care of by his actual mother. That's a story that we'll come to later. Moses' story is vast and complicated, and there is so much in the Quran that it's hard to begin and end that, because it's so much information and knowledge about what happened that it's hard to really cover all of it, because there's so much stuff that you can also go to the Bible and Torah and align that and try and figure out. Of course, they don't know about all of this, and the idiot Muslims, they have no clue. Today's Muslims, they are not Muslims. I keep calling them Muslims, but they have no idea what a Muslim is, and they certainly are not Muslims. So he came to Jerusalem and to the old house of God. Let's find that here somewhere. It's got to be somewhere here. Jerusalem, the old city. There it is. So this is where he ended up with his family, somewhere around here. I can tell you a few sites here. So this is the old city of Jerusalem, with the walls around stands today. This is the old house of God called the Temple Mount in Aqsa Mosque today, the western wall here. This is a valley that runs between the Temple Mount, or the house of God, and the so-called Mount of Olives, which is Mount Sinai. Actually, in all texts it should be referred to as Mount Sinai. And in the middle is the Valley of Tuva, which is referred to the Quran, referred in the Quran as the Valley of Tuva. Nobody knows that stuff here either, but that's the fact that exists in the Quran, and every aspect of it guides to that. So when he came here, he met up with the burning tree, the famous story of the burning tree and God talking to him from it. So he sensed fire, he came to the tree, and God spoke to him. So that's the first time God talked to Moses, through the burning tree. And he gave him the command that, go to Pharaoh and tell him, straighten up, or he's going to get what's coming to him, punishment. So he met up, God put the command, and then he sent him to Pharaoh. He also requested that Aaron be made a prophet with him, or he be sent command with Moses, and God did that. And he sent him as help with Moses, so he would be a confirmer of Moses. So then they came from here, ended up back in Egypt, Cairo, and they told Pharaoh, let the sons of Israel go with us. That's the command of your Lord. And then all that happened after that, with the plagues that came, and of course the signs that God gave Moses, the staff, and all the magicians and all that happened, which is written in the Bible, the Torah, clearly. And after all those things, and Pharaoh rejecting everything, they were told by God to leave, called the Exodus in the Torah. And they left, and people say, oh, he went through the Nile River. I don't believe that at all. I don't think that is what happened. I firmly believe that they crossed the Red Sea, or the so-called Gulf of Suez today, and they left. They came to this. Pharaoh and his idiot forces followed him. God parted the river. They crossed and they followed them in, and they were drowned. So that's the end of Pharaoh. That's the end of that, and everything was then inherited back to the sons of Israel. And all these places, even what was in Egypt and everything, was inherited back to the sons of Israel eventually. So he went through the Red Sea, and then what I understand is he they roamed somewhere around here, yeah, for a while, whatever happened, and then what I understand is that this is where Moses went up for 40 nights to get the Torah. In this area, where there are actually some references to Moses is being there, and the other aspect that I see is this whole area is colored a little weirdly relative to the other, because God actually appeared to Moses here and singed the whole mountain that he was looking towards to be able to see God, which he couldn't. So anyway, this is where he spent 40 nights with God and the angels and the spirit, and came down with the Torah, and they were all worshiping the calf, serving the calf, running around with that. And that story is very clearly explained in the Quran, and what happened, and who were the culprits and what God did. So then after that, they were told to go and enter the holy city, and they said, no, we're not going to fight. They're violent people. We're not going there. They told Moses, you go fight with your Lord. We're going to sit right here until they're left. So then God, okay, you're going to spend 40 years running around here. Yeah, that's what you're going to do. But God has already decided that he's going to give them the land back, and he would, even though they're insolent and totally stupid and against what God had promised to them. I mean, they broke the promise in 40 nights that Moses was up in the mountain, with Aaron there, and people say Aaron was also involved with the wrongdoing. That's an absolute lie. Aaron did no such thing. Aaron told them, hey, straighten up. This is a trial. Your God is the one who created you, and this is just a garbage trial to you. So obey me. And they wanted to kill him. So, that Aaron was absolutely not culpable, although there was a skirmish between Moses and Aaron. We'll come to that eventually if I continue with the story in the end, towards the end. So then eventually they came to the Holy Land after running around 40 years here, in the earth, God knows where, somewhere here, yeah. I mean, and then God brought them to the Holy Land back and established them back in Jerusalem. And people say, the so-called Muslims, oh, Moses never entered Jerusalem. It's a bunch of lies. They have no bloody clue. They have no clue what's going on. They just want to equate Muhammad as the highest of messengers, equate him with Moses, with Jesus, with Noah, with Abraham. You can't equate Muhammad with these high ones. Yeah, Muhammad is a messenger of God. He's lower than them. Now he's higher than me, and he's higher than all of you. That's for sure. But he ain't higher than Jesus or Moses or Abraham. He is their follower, and they are followers to each other, and all of them follow Abraham. So that's the fundamental truth with everybody, which everybody who is a believer will accept. If they don't, I don't care. I mean, it's your problem. You'll have to answer to God, not I. I believe what this is and what I say, and the rest can believe whatever the hell they want, and they will end up in hell for sure, no doubt about that, if then they go against the word of God and the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran, which is the truth in them, and the Quran, the absolute truth. The Quran cannot be changed. The Quran is the absolute truth. I will say it till I die. You can shout, scream, call me whatever name you want, and call the Quran whatever you want, but it will tell you it's the truth when you die. Don't you worry about that. None of you. You have nothing to worry about. When you die, the Quran will tell you it is the truth, and then you will rush to grab it, but too bad, too late. It's over now. Hell for you, all of you who reject the Quran and think it's a writing of a madman called Muhammad, who used to fly on a horse, and he was a pedophile. Yeah, keep calling him that. Keep calling him that. I will call you that as well that day. Don't worry. Don't you worry about it. Not a second in the day. So then he came back. He ended up in Jerusalem. He set up the old house, set up where the old house stands today. And that was basically towards the end of what the story of Moses is. So this is fundamentally what happened with Moses. And when you look at the timeline, I mean, Moses has to have lived more than 100 plus years. Yeah, at least, I mean, more like 150. He spent 40 years just running around here after the 40 nights with God. And before that, he spent, God knows, 30, 40 years in Cairo and all these places. And then he went up to the area in Tiberias and Nazareth and spent at least 8, 10 years, some 5, 8, 10, however long it took to do the 8 contentions or 10 contentions. And then he came back and spent time again with the Pharaoh and his chiefs, trying to tell them, and all the swarms that came, all the punishments that came, and they rebelled. And then he left here and came back out. So, add all of these things up. He was well over 150 odd years. Yeah, I mean, the Bible all does state that in some places that he lived quite a few years more than 150 or odd. I don't know exactly. I'm not really concerned, but the fundamental truth here is that we used to live longer before. Yeah, this is this understanding that suddenly we have acquired medical knowledge and we make people live to 100. Wow. They used to live to 60 years ago. Now they live to 100. Yeah, well, about 2,000 years ago, they used to live to 200, and maybe 10,000 years ago, they used to live to 800, and at the beginning, they used to live to up to 1,000. So, where's your progression? Where is your progression coming? Where's the progress going here? Yeah. Oh, that's a lie. No, they didn't live to 9,000. Have you seen the monuments broken down and the structures on the earth that are under the sea, which people have found cities upon cities under the sea? Ruins of them and on the earth, and you can't figure out how these cavemen made this stuff thousands of years ago. Yeah, you wonder why you can't figure that out, because your brains are deluded. You have accepted the construct of Satan. That's what you have done. And with the construct of Satan, the end is hell, because that's where he dwells. He is the father of the fire. And as people say, he is the father of all lies. He will command you to lie over God. He will command you to say garbage about God that is absolutely untrue. And you will go around thinking you are spewing flowers from your mouth because your language is so pristine. You don't use any bad words. You use all the nice, fantastic words to explain everything about God, which is a lie. So, that's what's happening. So, anyway, this is fundamentally the overall story. And next time when I feel like coming back, I will talk about the beginnings of Moses and how this story went about, explained in the Quran. And it's amazing, is the only thing I have to say about it. And there is no story of a messenger like that of Moses in the Quran. Muhammad is barely mentioned in the Quran, like 5 times his name is mentioned. He is the one who's being told all this story to learn from it, to be the way the messengers were, to learn the ways of his fathers, of his leaders, of the messengers that have gone by, and follow that and convey that to the rest of the people around him, as I do to all of you from the Quran. And everyone else who holds the Quran to their hearts as they should, they will do the same thing. But there are none that I see on the earth. They are spewers of absolute lies and garbage. Crap is the only thing I can say about what they say. And nothing of that is actually in the Quran except a few words. They will mix a few truthful words with a bunch of lies, and they will delude the bejeebers out of you. You will be deluded and you will be mesmerized by their beauty of the sayings that they say. And I will say you the direct truth. I will tell you the direct truth. You reject the Quran, you will go to hell. You reject the Bible, you will go to hell. You reject the Torah, you will go to hell. You will reject Muhammad, you will go to hell. You reject Moses, you will go to hell. You reject Jesus, you will go to hell. You reject Abraham, you will go to hell. You reject the hereafter, you will go to hell. You reject God, you will go to hell. So keep rejecting and calling me a crazy person who has no idea what he's talking about and just coming up with my own stories, and that I'm inventing stuff about God and all this stuff. And we'll see where you end up, and we'll see where I end up as well, because I will have to answer for what I say and what I believe and what I do, and you will have to answer for what you say, what you believe, and what you do. So till the next time, peace.